Yes, 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 and we are live again as always here at the place. You know, um, we just wait a few seconds as always. I'll be right with you in about 20 seconds when we start with the place. Yes, yes, yes. Hello, hello. This is Jean here at the place. As always, you know, Um, here, let's see. Something is wrong here. I need to publish this. Yes, sorry. Every time there is always something. You know, I don't know how that works, but the technical things that are going on sometimes here are just a little bit overwhelming. But welcome at the place at episode 209 of Tell. We are already at, this is where I am, at 209 of Tell. Yeah, that is what you have when you're always alone here. Then sometimes it's a little bit harder to do. And, but we have an interesting topic for you today. If you don't know what this is all about, of course, as always, we are at the place for more connections and more answers every Tuesday on Facebook and YouTube Live at 12 here in Central Time, calling from Dallas, But if you're in Europe and then everything in between, but in Europe it's like 7 o'clock in the evening. Um, and then before we go any further, I would love for you, of course, also to subscribe here at YouTube, my new YouTube channel, or just follow us on Facebook as always, right? Um, Today, we are going to talk about don't let people see your storm, show them how you ride it. And for me, this falls under the actually on the two life energies, if I think about it now. Um, it actually falls under the life energy, manifestation energy, I think. Yeah, manifestation energy would actually be fit perfectly, and mental energy. So think a little bit about that. And there are five life energies, and I always have nice slides about that. Five life energies. We have physical energy, we have mental energy, we have creative energy, we have manifestation energy. That's one of the energies this topic falls under. And then last but not least, we have the divine energy. The five life energies were first presented in my best-selling book. You see it here on my left side here, Broken Silence. Living a life of passion and purpose after a sexual abuse. It's also sponsoring actually this show because all proceeds of this book go to a good cause. So that's why I said it's sponsored by it. So there are many things we can say about about the storm. Sorry, I had to turn off my phone and I forgot about that. And so you can be in the storm, but don't let the storm come into you. Joel Osteen said that, but there are many. Look some up on YouTube or on just on the internet on Google and type in quotes or sayings about storms, and there are many of them. People say, you're not affected by the storm, you are the storm. Whatever floats your boat. No pun intended. You could come up with it. But let's talk a little bit about the perfect storm, right? Because we all have storms in our life, and there could be smaller ones and big ones. And at time, uh, and when things hit us at all at the same time, so there's more things than just only wind, but there is a tornado and there is all kind of things. So the weather people call that a perfect storm. Now that sounds almost like positive, so to speak, right? The phrase perfect storm is often used to describe the chaos that ensures when multiple negative factors converge at the same time. That's a little bit the definition of it. And like I said, it sounds a little bit positive, but perfect is not positive in this case at all. So We only have to think about recent times, COVID and the uncertainty of world peace, to know that we maybe are in what we call right now in a perfect storm. And so and COVID has one thing, but the fallout of COVID was you only don't get you cannot only get sick from it, but it gives people a very feeling of unsafety. Some people actually lost their job, or at least working with a team, because we have to work more from home. It's getting a little bit better now, but then something else hit us on another world scale level, which is the war in Ukraine and Russia. And although it doesn't affect us maybe here in Dallas directly, because the war is not here, it might be something that you feel maybe less safe about what's going on. So you could say that I said that is often used, the perfect storm, when multiple negative factors converge at the same time. You could arguably say that we are at the moment in a perfect storm, you know. And so in the case of COVID, losing your job, maybe even losing relatives or people that you know, which I know I did, through these circumstances, and so that feels like a perfect storm. um, Now, of course, we talk a little bit more about how to deal with it, but we also have to understand a little bit, when we say that we are in a storm, what that does that mean, right? But even if a storm has calmed down, even a long time ago, the fallout and damage can sometimes be felt long after the storm. So, I live in Dallas, and it's a little bit, on the edge of being on the safe side when big hurricanes hit us. But I only have to look back at, was it in 2016 or so, when these big hurricanes hit our coast, and things were really bad for us. From in some states like New Orleans, and if you actually listen to those people, someone said to me, "You need to turn off the music." I'm sorry, I forgot that my earpiece didn't give me the music today. Um, so thank you. At least I know there's someone online. That's a good thing, right? So if you have something to say, by the way, type it in Facebook or YouTube, because I can see actually your comments right here in the feed. But anyhow, I was I was going here on a tangent a little bit. But I think it was 2016 when we had and it happens quite a bit here in the US and other parts of the world too. But if storms hit us as big as they are, we call them hurricanes here in the United States. But if they hit them in Asia, they are actually kind of the same storms. They call them typhoons, and it could be devastating. And the fallout of these things can take years before you can overcome them. Can you imagine if you, for instance, lose your house or you lose family members? The trauma from that takes a long time to overcome. So even if the storm has calmed down, for us internally, we still feel that storm going on. Um, all right. So someone said there is a glitchy sound on it. So I opened the box of Pandora, getting a reaction from you, but you're giving good reactions here. So hopefully, give me thumbs up if that glitchy sound has gone away, and then we can solve that maybe at another time. Um, so. So you could also see that when you went through youth trauma, like if you have followed these shows for a while, then you know that I've been through an abuse trauma myself as a kid. That storm might be gone, but the feeling and the fallout of the storm is still there. So maybe there are still things for me how to deal with that storm, right? So does that make sense? So even if the storm has calmed down, that's what I wrote, the fallout and damage can sometimes be felt long after the storm. Things are breaking down here. Since I'm talking about the storm, a lot of things are going, I don't know what's going on here. There's always something in this show, and that's why I think you should follow it, because it's always exciting. We talk about good stuff, but me dealing with all this technology and all that stuff, you never know what's going to happen. So if you want to have some entertainment here, then just by all means come to the place here at 12 o'clock. Um, so there's no immediate way or perfect way, and then, I mean, I still need to keep keep my mind, on the topic of today, because before you know, I'm talking about a lot of other things. Um, there's no immediate or perfect way to enter something like a pandemic, or neither is there an immediate or perfect way to restore peace and freedom, and neither is there an immediate way for me to forget, and if that's possible at all, to forget what I've been through in my life. For instance, the abuse that I went through. So, so that's one thing. So that's the storm that can go on us, and these storms, we call them emotional storms, or maybe feeling storms. That would actually be a little bit better word, but emotional storms, rolls a little bit better off the tongue, so to speak. Um, let's go and look at it for a slightly different angle. We are all driven by what is called conservation of resources. In jargon we say COR, right? We are driven by COR, conservation of resources. And if you're really following the show today, then this is what I would like you to write down: conservation of resources, because we expand a little bit on that. And it means that we as human beings in this case, typically react much stronger to when we lose something than when we gain something. So write that down, right? We typically react much stronger when we lose something than when we gain something. You might say, is that really true, Sean? Yeah. Just give you a couple of examples here. Getting a new car is, of course, super exciting, right? But when you lose your car, maybe because, it's damaged, or it's stolen, or maybe because of a real storm, I mean, that feels very painful. That emotional reaction to that is way stronger. Now, can you imagine if that through a hurricane or something like that is a house? Now, when you get a new house, that is super exciting. You're super happy with it and stuff like that. But if your house is completely damaged or even destroyed because of a hurricane, now, luckily, I'm blessed, that has never happened to me, but at least I know a few people who've been through that. That's a lifetime impact on you. So that's a great proof. Or, well, I'm not trying to prove. Well, actually, I'm trying to prove a point. I'm not trying to stir up some emotions that you have. Yeah. So react strongly when we lose something, material possession, and money. But it's also, of course, when we lose strongly when that is more immaterial, right? Like the loss of a relationship, or the loss of our freedom that some people actually undergo to now in Ukraine. The freedom of safety is after the freedom of the loss of safety. That's what I would say. So that is one thing. But if you were in a relationship and you didn't expect a divorce, and your spouse runs away, that can feel like a loss. That even if you are after that and I can definitely testify to this thing, even if after that you find yourself in a place where you have maybe a new relationship, that event what happened a long time ago can still impact you for a long time. I'm not even talking about war, because I probably would not know how that feels, but I said it already last week. I have people close by who actually go through the things that are going on at the moment in the world. My parents lived through World War II, and a war after that in their country where they were born, at least. So the impact of war and the loss of family and material is all coming together. So probably war is one of the biggest traumas you can go to. If you go through this podcast is often about abuse. If you go through abuse, you lose a lot, man. That is definitely a thing. But one of the things that you definitely lose is the loss of safety and trust. And those are pretty big things in life. If you don't have a lot of trust in other people anymore because you lost the ability to trust someone, if you felt that you should have protected by people, but the same people that you expected that protection from are the ones you needed protect that that you needed. How do I always say that in my book? I can't even say it anymore. But anyone, the people who should protect you are the people you needed protection from. That's what I wanted to say. And so that is a tremendous loss of safety. And here again, I can testify myself. It's not so easy to overcome that. It's not something that you say, hey, that's so long ago. Let's forget that. So that is the storm that we can be in. Now, if I look for something, this is always a little bit of a hot button for me. I always want to see, what I see in the world, and of course, I'm just be honest at these things. I see the things through my lens, and my lens is, of course, just a perspective of something, and can be sometimes a pretty narrow view. But I see what I see, and therefore I react to it. I see us people sometimes only posting about the storm we go through. I think we should help other people a little bit more if we tell them how we ride those storms, what we do about it, how we survive those storms. That's why I, honestly, was for me the big motivation to write my book, A Broken Silence, is not only to tell you about the storm that I was in, and you can read that in the first 2 chapters, but it has also to do a lot with how I wrote the storm of the aftermath of abuse. So that's an example. There's a big storm going on in our beloved dance world. At least it's still my beloved dance world, but it's a big storm going on. And some people say, I'm excluding myself at the moment from that storm, and because I'm driving chains. Well, everyone needs to do what they do, but I'm not sure if you can always exclude yourself from something by just saying that. And what are you actually doing about it is a little bit more important. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So no matter what the circumstances or losses are, we cannot always do something about them, right? Literally a year ago, I lost my dad. And he was old, so it was time for him to move on. But that doesn't mean that the loss of his of not having him is feel any much better. Maybe the acceptance is a little bit better, but it doesn't feel better. So it only matters how we actually react to the losses we have in life and the circumstances we have be put into. Sometimes we can do something about the circumstances, but very often not immediately, right? So the way we think about the emotional storms that we go through very much defines how we actually deal with them, right? It's like a real storm, you can look at it outside or you can be afraid of it. It depends a little bit on where you're coming from, right? So a lot of these storms are event driven. I gave you already a view, right? And if you only look at the events and you see them as, independent little events, then that can be very overwhelming, right? So if you're, for instance, in a divorce situation, then suddenly also you are in a financial bad situation. And in my case, for some reason, I also had to find a new job and a new house, and and that's years and years ago. But I remember it really well, that it felt like an overwhelming storm of a lot of things that, if you talk about them independently, they look like they are maybe not interconnected, but they were actually, for me, they created that perfect storm, so to speak, right? And then it's really good to stay with it and try to see what do you need to solve first. Yeah. So as best as I could, I still try to support my family. It's up to them whether I did that in the right or the wrong way. I don't know about that, but I try to do that. Then the next time I wanted to do is, change my living situation, because, staying in that big house all by myself was not an ideal thing at all. I had to do something about the job situation and the financial situation. But anyhow, event driven. I could change it by just taking it one at a time instead of trying to see this overwhelming perfect storm. Some of these events, let's say you get invited to speak at a big event, and then the storm starts to happen, and it drives procrastination. A lot of people have that. When something big's come over them, and at first they're very enthusiastic, like I'm invited for a speaking event or a big presentation or something like that, and then the overwhelming comes and it stops of doing us anything. So that's more procrastination driven, as I call that. And then last but not least, and there are more ways to look at these things, storm can definitely feel like it's more belief driven. And that things like, oh my gosh, it cannot get any worse than this, and it always overcomes me. Things that feels very personal, but has a little bit more to do how we reacted from a belief point of view. And that could go very far, right? It could, I just gave you some simple examples, but it could be definitely in the sense of, it cannot get any worse. Well, it sounds really bad. But sometimes it can actually get even worse, right? But the fact that you already say that it can get any worse could be either positive or negative. I always think, well, I'm already rock bottom. Now it can go only up, which is a little bit more a positive way of believing these things as well. But if you start to say, oh, that can only happen to me, well, the pandemic or something cannot only happen to you, right? Or so some people just believe that general circumstances, hit them harder just because the way they are wired and think about things. Does that make any sense? Um, and so no, there need to be ways how to actually deal with these things, right? Actually, there are, I'm doing it twice in 3 steps. Let's put it that way, twice in 3 steps. First of all, you just need to be notice what's going on. Just mention to yourself what's going on, like I did in my case. About 11 years ago, when I went through this divorce, and I had to just really notice what is truly going on here. I literally had to write that down for myself to do that, instead of only getting into that grief and lost. I just really had to rationalize that and see, okay, what is really going on here. Then I truly had to connect with my insight. I was and that's why I took this example, is I was angry, and I was raging mad actually how that happened. So at first I had very little understanding. Is there maybe also another side of this story? And I called some people. So I had to connect with myself, but I called also some people who I know would be helping me with this. Although in normal life I would be helping other people with it, but when you are in your storm, maybe it's good to ask other people for help. And so I had to check my reality. What is the feeling that I have inside me? Um, and it was anger, and someone had to tell me, but Jean, and I will use this actually myself so often to other people, and I forgot about it, right? The fact that the other people may even stop loving you doesn't mean that you have to stop loving that other person. So what can you still do out of love for that other person, even if that person did something really bad to you? Yeah, so let me say that again. If someone doesn't love you anymore, but you still have love for the other person, what can you still do for that person, you know, out of that same love? And in some cases, that means, make sure that you don't have any contact anymore. In some cases, you hear that when some people break up and the other person asks, I really don't want you to contact anymore, then don't do that, right? Don't say, but I need you. Well, that is reasoning from a very selfish point of view. So in my case, what I could do is at least make sure um, that I kept the support going, and that was maybe more from a materialistic point of view, money in this case, and that felt hard to be honest. I really didn't an emotional or feeling point of view. I actually didn't want to do that. And then there was one person who said to me, "Can you actually see that this divorce is an act of love?" Oh my gosh, no, I could not see that at that moment. It took me a while to actually get a feel of what that meant at that moment. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit personal today, but I really want you to understand that that's how the world should be, right? I see too many conflicts around me, and we often say it's completely wrong, and sometimes it is. You know, I see that in my beloved dance world where some things happened, and it is completely wrong. But you know, if we turn it around and see what can we do from a heart of love and see to repair that, would that make and give us maybe other thoughts and ways to act upon these things than we would normally do? So connect with your inside. That's what I do. You also need to connect a little bit with your outside, and it's a lot. That's a lot easier actually than you think. Like what? Yeah, connect with your outside. Yeah, sometimes you just need to go. Some people would say live in the now, but by now you know that I actually am a little bit tired of the power of now, and I debunked that a long time. Sorry, my friend Eckhart Tolle. I think you're a great author, but a lot of the things that you wrote are maybe not so practical as a lot of people believe. Please send me some messages that you want to hear more about that, even if you don't like what I just said. But connect with your outside. Yeah. And that means, yeah, literally start going outside, look again, eat again, be healthy for yourself, do something with your five senses, feel more, hug a tree if you have to, connect with other people, all those kind of things that connects you more with the outside again, your outside, right? Connect with the people at that time that support you, like I try to at least call some people. And then you might be disappointed with some people who are not so supportive as you think they are, but that's okay. That's up to them. Doesn't mean that they don't like you or something at all. They might not know how to deal with your storm at that moment. And that's okay too, right? But I know that there are always people around you that are more than willing to take a good walk with you. Might not talk about the storm that you go through, but at least they can hold your hand or give you good lunch or something like that. Yeah, connect with the outside. Super important to stay connected with your outside too. So that's another way to do it. If you actually believe that doesn't work, what I just said, it actually does. This is actually backed up with quite a bit of research, and actually the World Health Organization actually gives this as a method actually to do for us those three things. Actually, they put it in a slightly different word, and that's what I want to give you in the end. And they call it ACT, and a lot of psychologists actually use that too. ACT, A-C-T, and it means first you need to accept where you are, right? And then you need to create a vision of where you want to go. So, for instance, in my case, about the loss of my family through a divorce, I wanted to create a vision where there was room for connection and love again. And then you take action, right? Because if you do it just from a negative feeling, that's not the vision you had in mind. That's just the emotion and feelings that are speaking. Right. Another person that I knew that I met quite recently put it actually in four different acronyms in a four different letter. Well, it doesn't make a nice word, but he calls it the four R's, which I am so enthusiastic about. So I wanted to give you that too, right? It's another way to deal with your storm, right? So see first what your reality is. Sometimes the storm is just so hard that you just have to sit it out for a little bit at the moment. But the storm will always reside. There's always sun after the storm or whatever that's called, So, and then think a little bit about, okay, what is the things that I'm after? So think about vision again in that acronym ACT, right? Create your vision. What is the results that I'm actually after? In the case of I still wanted to have a happy life. Could I have the happy life the way how I per se wanted? No, my love told me that's not what in this case my ex-wife wanted. It's what I wanted, but but it's not what she wanted, and I had to respect that out of love. Does that make sense? I was angry. I felt pushed aside and I was tossed away. Whatever you have, and that's a really nasty feeling. Specifically, if you have my character, you don't refuse me anything. That's what I think. But well, that was a little bit of a hard call. Yeah, there are people who can refuse you some things, and in this case, they refuse you the biggest thing in the world, and that's love. And I wanted to that love, but because I created a vision for myself and also for my kids, I still think I can still be a really good dad. I hope I am. And you two kids out there, you can tell me if I'm not. But I can still give love to my ex-wife by supporting her. And a lot of friends said, "Oh, why do you do that to her?" I said, "Well, because I still love her." And I think she still loved me too, by the way, but just in a different way, and that's okay too. And although I found incredible new people in my life after that, you know, I still talk about it with some emotion. I can still feel how that storm was, but I had so much learning from it, right? So, and then I figured out what are the roadblocks to get there. Well, there was a financial roadblock. There was a distance roadblock. There was, there were other roadblocks in there too that I had to solve. But once I had once I understood the reality of the situation I was in, once I understood what I wanted to go after, I just could slay those roadblocks very quickly. And I did that by just taking action. At some point in time, guys, I know it sounds like a broken record, specifically if you talk to coaches, you don't take any action, nothing will happen, right? So Tony Robbins always said, in the moment of your decisions, you create your destiny. But I always add to that, a decision without any action to it means nothing, means zero, right? So that was that. Managing your perfect storm. Why do I said in this thing? Some people, want to hear always about your storm. We put that often on the internet. We put out how bad it is, how bad the circumstances we are. And it's not to tutor your own horn, if that's a good expression, but I just, I would love to hear people who take action of the things that they see are bad, either in their personal circumstances or maybe the things that they go through, like, in the world. For instance, in the world of dancing, I have no clue exactly 100% what's going on there. The only thing I hear about is the storm that's going on. Can we also please hear about what the people who are in charge and who have the ability to do something about the storm, what they do about it? That would make me a lot happier. And the same thing for the world leaders too, if it comes to solving Ukraine and Russia, and definitely newspapers and stuff like that. Yeah, I know, the storm is really bad. Shooting is in the street, but what are we doing about it? What are we literally doing about it on a day-to-day basis? Can we hear that maybe a little bit more than only about the storm, which sounds more like sensation and just sharing emotions and feeling, which is good. There need to be time for that too. But what we need to hear is that we take good action in the right direction. That is it. That was the place. It had a rough start, which is always true with storms, right? It had some sound issues and it had some slide issues, and I had some, I don't know, there was some crackling sound, so I hope that sounds not so bad when I put it in the recording. Luckily, I can separate the music from it, so that will be good. Listen to me also in the podcast if you want to re-listen to this again. If not, then I'll see you back next week at the place with another topic. If you have a suggestion for the topic, people who were there, I'm just waving there. I see Stephanie is there. I see Irene is there. If you were with me live, thank you so much. Hope to see you back next time. If you have time, you can jump with me, by the way, for the after party on a Zoom call. If you received an email for that, then you know what that link is. If not, then just send me very quickly a personal message in Facebook or where have you not, and I'll send you the link of the Zoom call really quickly. Yeah, this was Jean with The Place. I hope to see you back next week, and let's see if I can get it just once, without any technical difficulties. This was Jean. Until next time, bye-bye.